If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 401, As a Duelist. Book of Eclipse. All monsters become face down. Koyo. As a champion, he instantly realized what this meant. Normally, monsters summoned by chain material would self-destruct at the end of the turn, but turning them face down dodges that risk even more. Even if those monsters are turned face up later, the self-destruct won't trigger. Once face down, they're treated as having left the field, and flipping face up refreshes their state. They're no longer considered summoned by chain material, so they won't self-destruct. You had that up your sleeve. Koyo gritted his teeth. This guy is strong. He hated to admit it, but even though the Arbiter used elemental heroes and likely not his real deck and didn't even go all out, Koyo could still sense his power. This opponent was the strongest he'd ever faced as a duelist. Activate spell card. Card of Burial Magic. Banish Book of Eclipse, Card of Sanctity, and Fusion Gate from my graveyard. Draw 2 cards. Anime card. The Arbiter drew 2 cards. Set 3 cards, end turn, the Arbiter said calmly. Book of Eclipse has a follow-up effect. At the end phase, all opponents' face-down monsters are flipped face-up, and the opponent draws a card for each. But you have no monsters, so that doesn't matter. He paused. Now, let me see just how brightly the world champion's soul can blaze. My thoughts exactly. Koyo coughed twice, then declared firmly. My turn. Draw. The opponent still had 5 powerful heroes, a huge life point and field advantage. But even so, he would not give up. Even if he died, he would fall fighting to the last second. Having put life and death aside, Koyo felt unusually light inside, perhaps purer in this near-death moment than ever before as a duelist. So he decided not to think too much, just to immerse himself in the duel, following his heart. Activate spell cards. Spell books from the pot. Both players draw 3 cards. Manga card. He drew 3 more. Next, activate spell card. Card rotator, said Koyo. Discard 1 card, change the battle position of all opponents' monsters. He discarded a card to the graveyard. All your monsters return to attack position. Elemental Hero Phoenix Enforcer, ATK 2600. Elemental Hero Great Tornado, ATK 3300. Elemental Hero Escuridao, ATK 3000. Elemental Hero Nova Master, ATK 3100. Elemental Hero The Shining, ATK 5500. The 5 face-down cards flipped back to attack position, like a chain of mountains before Koyo. You chose to face them head-on, the Arbiter remarked. A hero never runs from battle, Koyo smiled. I activate spell card Polymerization. I fuse Elemental Hero Bublemon and the Wind Attribute Elemental Hero Stratos from my hand. Fusion requirements, Elemental Hero plus any wind monster. Fusion summon. Elemental Hero Great Tornado. The same wind attribute fusion hero as the Arbiters, Great Tornado descended, arms crossed, amidst howling whines. Great Tornado's effect when fusion summoned, all opponents' monsters ATK and def are halved. Koyo roared. Downburst. Earlier, when Arbiter summoned Great Tornado, Koyo had no monsters, so the effect didn't trigger. Now, a storm swept across the Arbiter's field. The 5 heroes wavered under the gale, greatly weakened. Elemental Hero Phoenix Enforcer, ATK 2600 1300. Elemental Hero Great Tornado, ATK 3300 1650. Elemental Hero Escuridao, ATK 3000 1500. Elemental Hero Nova Master, ATK 3100 1550. Elemental Hero The Shining, ATK 5500 2750. Nice! Jaden exclaimed. That's a huge drop in strength. Koyo continued, next, activate spell card Fusion Recovery. Return Elemental Hero Bublemon and Polymerization from the graveyard to my hand. He promptly played them again. Activate Polymerization again, this time, fuse Elemental Hero Clayman and Elemental Hero Bublemon from my hand. Requirements, Hero plus any water monster. Fusion Summon. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Snow and ice fell, freezing the field. The pure white-caped hero arrived. Koyo's strongest ace outside the Planet Series Absolute Zero. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, ATK 2500. Activate spell card Monster Reborn. Koyo declared. Revive my ace, my soul. Elemental hero terra firma. The earth split, lava erupting like a furious fire dragon. Amidst molten rock, the giant white hero representing the planet Earth landed, shaking the field. Elemental hero terra firma, ATK 2500. Of course, in the real card game, Terra can't be revived except by fusion, but in the manga, it often gets revived by all sorts of effects. Activate set card, continuous trap DNA transplant. Koyo declared. Change all monsters' attributes to 1. I declare. I declare water. A torrent enveloped all monsters on both fields. Attribute changing card. The arbiter asked. Elemental hero Absolute Zero gains 500 ATK for each water monster on the field except itself, Koyo explained. You have 5 monsters, and besides Absolute Zero, I have 2 more all now water. Absolute Zero's ATK increases by. Elemental hero Absolute Zero, ATK 2500 6000. ATK 6000. Chapter 402, Fighting to the End. Elemental hero Absolute Zero, ATK 6000. Next, Terra's effect activates. I contribute an elemental hero on my field, and Terra gains that monster's ATK and def values. Koyo declared. So, I tribute elemental hero Great Tornado. Terra gains its attack power. Earth Magma. Great Tornado's body dissolved into particles of light, all its energy absorbed into Terra. Terra's whole body instantly turned a fiery red, like magma erupting from deep in the earth. Unleashed, destructive power surged as a blazing dragon of molten lava fired from his back, exuding heat enough to melt metal. Elemental hero Terra Firma, ATK 2500 5300. 2 monsters, one with ATK 5300, one with ATK 6000. Jaden's eyes were full of awe. This is the power of the man called the greatest hero on earth. Koyo, counter-attacking from the brink. Kira watched silently, chin in hand. If it were him, he'd probably have Terra absorb Absolute Zero's attack too. That way, Terra's ATK would break 10,000, and more importantly, he could trigger Absolute Zero's best effect, Absolute Zero when it leaves the field, destroy all opposing monsters. Then he remembered, oh, right, that effect was added in the card game's version. In the manga, Absolute Zero only gained ATK based on the number of water monsters on the field. But in the real card game, that effect is ignored, people use Absolute Zero just for its field wipe. So even in Koyo's powerful hero deck, there are still areas to improve. Too bad if Absolute Zero had the field wipe, Koyo could have done even more. Actually, he thought, absorbing Great Tornado wasn't strictly necessary. Terra's boosted ATK would revert at the end of the turn. But, well, it's a soul card powering up for morale is pretty normal. Battle! Koyo shouted. First, Elemental Hero Terra Firma attacks Elemental Hero the Shining. Terra's attack was more than enough. The opponent's monsters, weakened by Great Tornado, had their stats halved. If Koyo's all-out attack landed, it would be a comeback from the edge. Of course, things wouldn't go that smoothly. Trap card, relieve monster, the arbiter said. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, I can return a monster from my field to my hand, then special summon a level 4 monster from my hand. He glanced at his monsters. I'll return Elemental Hero Phoenix Enforcer to my hand, and special summon this card. Orichalco's Kyutera. Anime card. Phoenix Enforcer disappeared in a blaze, returning to the deck. A bizarre, spiky monster appeared in his back row, its body dominated by a single eerie eye. Orichalco's Kyutera, ATK 500 1000, Orichalco's boost. What? Koyo frowned. Not only was the monster's appearance strange, but its position was odd. It appeared behind the 4 elemental heroes, in the spell/trap zone. Seal of Orichalco's, second effect, my monster zones and spell/trap zones are interchangeable. Monsters can be summoned to the back row. The arbiter explained calmly. Also, until all monsters in my front row are destroyed, you can't target my back row monsters for attacks. Koyo's frown deepened. Such a bizarre effect. And that monster made him uneasy. In the audience, Seto Kaiba narrowed his eyes. That guy. He couldn't possibly forget this card. It was one of Dart's key cards. Abandoned the hero deck and finally brought out his true monsters. Kaiba said quietly. In a way, it was an acknowledgement of Koyo as an opponent. But now, Koyo couldn't back down. Battle resumes, but my attack continues, Koyo said. Continue attacking Elemental Hero the Shining. Elemental Hero the Shining, ATK 2750. Earth Magma Slash. Terra's molten blade cut through the Shining, melting and destroying the hero. Nice. Jaden said. That's massive damage. No, Kira shook his head. Hey. After the Shining was destroyed, the fire and energy released were sucked into Kyotara's eye, the newly summoned, ominous monster. And the Arbiter's life points were unscathed. What? Koyo was shocked. Orichalco's Kyotara's effect absorbs battle damage, the Arbiter said. As long as it's on the field, all battle damage I would take becomes 0. Koyo gritted his teeth. Due to seal of Orichalco's, he couldn't attack Kyotara until the front row monsters were gone. But if Kyotara wasn't destroyed, he couldn't inflict any damage. He glanced at the 3 remaining heroes on the opponent's field. Normally, even if you couldn't inflict damage, you'd at least reduce the opponent's monsters. But that ominous eye, especially the way it absorbed energy, gave him a chill. So, will you continue attacking? The Arbiter asked. I stop my attacks. End turn. Koyo took a deep breath. He couldn't say why, maybe it was a duelist's instinct. As if a voice inside warned him, don't attack, or something worse will happen. Oh? You sensed danger from Kyotara and stopped? Hat, sharp instinct for someone with no idea of my tactics, truly the gift of a top duelist. But it changes nothing. The Arbiter slowly raised his arm. My turn. Draw. I activate my set card, trap card Alchemy Cycle. All my face-up monsters' original ATK becomes 0. Elemental Hero Nova Master, ATK 500. Elemental Hero Great Tornado, ATK 500. Elemental Hero Escuridao, ATK 600. Orichalco's Kyotara, ATK 500. Only Escuridao, due to a hero in the graveyard, had more than 500 ATK, the rest reverted to 500. Koyo was confused, you reduced your own monster's ATK to 0. Now, battle. The Arbiter waved his hand. Elemental Hero Escuridao, attack Elemental Hero Absolute 0. Elemental Hero Absolute 0, ATK 5000. With only Absolute 0 and 5 monsters on the field, Absolute 0's ATK dropped slightly, but was still 5000. Escuridao was instantly frozen and shattered. Battle damage is still absorbed by Kyotara, the Arbiter said. Plus, when a monster with 0 ATK is destroyed by battle due to Alchemy Cycle, I draw 1 card. He drew a card. Next, Nova Master attacks Absolute 0. Nova Master, ATK 500. Absolute 0, ATK 4500. Nova Master was frozen and shattered. Again, battle damage is absorbed, I draw a card, said the Arbiter. Next, Great Tornado attacks. Great Tornado, ATK 500. Absolute 0, ATK 4000. Great Tornado was also frozen and destroyed. Finally, Orichalco's Kyotara attacks Absolute 0. Orichalco's Kyotara, ATK 500. Absolute 0, ATK 3500. Even this monster is attacking. Koyo started to sweat. A terrible sense of foreboding, there was a trick here. He could feel it, hidden behind that eerie eye. Something was about to emerge. Kira sighed softly, this is it. To force that one out, Koyo is a proud duelist, Kaiba said calmly. But it's over. Only they understood what was coming next. When Absolute 0 froze Kyotara as well, as the latter was annihilated by the hero's power, it was as if a forbidden seal had been broken. Even the seal of Orichalco's responded. 6 pointed stars flickered green, the earth shook, and the sky was filled with a green glow, as if fearing the arrival of a demon god. When Orichalco's Kyotara leaves the field in any way, its hidden seal is broken. The Arbiter raised his dual disc, and a pillar of green light shot from his deck as a massive demon god descended. Orichalco's Shun Oris, summoned. Orichalco's Shun Oris. Koyo looked up, feeling it took everything he had just to face this god. The pressure was so great he could barely move his fingers. Even Kaiba's face darkened, silent for a moment. This is it. Back when he and Adam teamed up against darts, Kaiba only made it to this point. He lost to this god. That's right. Shinoro's ATK equals the total battle damage Kyotara absorbed before leaving the field, plus 500 from the seal of Orichalco's. So now, Shinorosa's ATK is Orichalco's Shinora's ATK? ATK 17,950. 17,950. That monster's back, brother. Mokuba also shuddered. Yet, Kaiba grunted. In fact, when he and Adam fought it, Shinorosa's ATK was over 20,000. This is actually a bit less. But the result is the same. You made it this far, so I'll acknowledge your effort, the Arbiter said. Letting me summon Shinoris was beyond my expectations. But it's about time to finish this. Next. His voice was calm. Orichalco's Shinoris, attack elemental hero terra firma. It was as if all the barrier's power channeled into the god, green light swirling around its body, forming a ring that slashed through Terra. Terra was cut in half, the ring continuing its path, striking Koyo directly. Koyo let out a muffled grunt, his body flying back uncontrollably. His vision blurred, the voices calling his name faded away. So, in the end, I lost. A little regret, but he had done his best. At least, he fought to the very end as a duelist. Koyo, LP 100 LP 0. Comment. 0 comment. Vote. Chapter 403, Chapter 403, The Weight of Dueling. Mr. Koyo. As the duel ended, Jaden was the first to rush onto the stage. The Orichalco's barrier was shrinking, wrapping only Koyo inside. Jaden ran up and called his name through the barrier. Koyo, barely conscious, lifted his eyelids and looked his way. Jaden. Seeing Jaden's clear eyes, full of worry, he seemed to see his younger self. In youth, Koyo was also obsessed with dueling, always passionate and fearless. But back then, dueling was more pure. Still, he considered himself lucky. Years in the pro circuit had its lows, and he'd seen the dark side of society. Dueling became less simple. But he held on to himself, and was still that same boy at the very end. He had no regrets. The world spun, sights and sounds faded. He could vaguely see Jaden and his sister shouting to him, but no longer heard their words. Koyo slowly drew out the deck he'd fought with for years, the one that brought him the world championship, his soul deck. He gently placed it before Jaden. From now on, it's up to you, Jaden. He whispered words only he could hear. Become a greater duelist than me. Then he closed his eyes, letting himself fall. The green light vanished, the arena fell silent. Koyo collapsed, but a satisfied smile remained on his lips. Humph, I overlooked something, the Arbiter narrowed his eyes, glancing at Jaden. You seem to have something special. He raised his hand, pointing at Jaden with a strange green glow. What? Jaden looked up, but as soon as his gaze met the green light, he froze as if electrocuted. His eyes became vacant, countless images flashing through his mind. You. What are you doing? Kaiba stepped forward. But before he could act, a blinding golden light burst out. Sacred and awe-inspiring, it pushed back the Orichalco's green. Everyone looked toward the source. It was Kira, who was as surprised as anyone. It was the Millennium item. Sensing the Arbiter's power, the golden light burst from Kira's chest as the inverted pyramid-shaped Millennium item floated midair, golden lines forming its outlines, then becoming solid. In that light, a king's shadow briefly appeared, raising a hand toward the Arbiter in a gesture to stop. The green light faded away as if swept aside. Jaden quickly snapped out of his trance, looking around confused. Jaden. It was all over in a moment, only now did Midori rush over, shielding Jaden protectively, glaring at the Arbiter. Kaiba's pupils shrank as he looked at the golden light. That aura, could it be? The Arbiter shielded himself from the light, sneering, even in death, you won't rest, damn pharaoh. But it was only for a moment. It was just a reflexive burst of energy sensing the Arbiter's power. The Arbiter withdrew, and the energy faded. Doesn't matter. He put his hands behind his back and calmly left the arena. But before stepping down, he glanced at Kira. You're next, Fujiki Kira, he said coldly. Your soul will be captured in this duel, along with that pharaoh's cursed item. I'll be waiting, Kira replied. Koyo's duel wasn't in vain. Before, even Kira wasn't sure what deck the Arbiter, the Serpent God's incarnation, would use. It seemed the Arbiter planned to use heroes to play a mirror match, but Koyo forced him to reveal his true trump card. So, the Arbiter's main deck was likely the Orichalco's deck, just like darts. No. Jaden picked up Koyo's deck, stood up, and looked firmly at the arbiter. I'll defeat you first. Oh. Only now did the arbiter look at him. Before the tournament, the only opponents in the arbiter's eyes were Kira and Kaiba. He'd ignored Jaden, until now. But from a brief contact with Jaden's mind though quickly interrupted he sensed something. This boy's spirit hid a power from another dimension, a reincarnation, so deeply asleep that even the arbiter almost missed it. From that contact, he also sensed confusion in Jaden's memories. Jaden himself was unaware, but much of his memory was in chaos, as if something crucial was missing, patched over with fragments. He thought his memories were whole, but much was false. The arbiter found this interesting. And this soul might be one of a kind. But he just smiled. Then you'll have to reach me first. He left the stage. After all, the semi-final pairings were still to be determined. Jaden watched the arbiter leave, unconsciously clenching his fist, gaze fixed. For the first time in his life, he truly felt what it means to bear the weight of a duel. Chapter 404, Resolve, Bonus. With Koyo and the arbiter's battle ended, the quarterfinals finished. After the quarterfinals, there was a break. Just like in the first Duelist Kingdom, the quarterfinals were held en route, but the semifinals would be at a separate, special venue. Back then, it was the Duel Tower, symbolizing the end of Kaiba's past. He planned to win the Duel King title and the 3 Egyptian god cards atop that tower, ending his history. But everyone knows what happened. Kaiba spent a fortune to host the world's biggest tournament, gathered the god card holders, and wagered the Duel King title, yet in the end, Yugi took everything. No one knows how much Kaiba spent, but Yugi won the Duel King title and the gods, and Kaiba got nothing. It seems that, ever since, Kaiba was semi-retired. Publicly, he claimed he was done with dueling, focusing on business, but everyone knows he still dueled plenty. The duel ship continued. According to the organizers, the destination was close, and duelists could rest and tweak their decks. The final battleground was in sight. Back in his room, Jaden laid out Koyo's deck, the one he inherited, on the table, staring at it in a daze. At least half were rare cards, impossible to buy. For his budget heroes, it was a huge upgrade. These were the heroes he'd always dreamed of. Now, holding them, he only felt emptiness and heaviness. The door opened. Jaden turned to see Kira enter. Kira. How's Koyo? Kira asked. Still unconscious in the ship's infirmary. The equipment can't find anything wrong. Jaden didn't continue. But they both knew what that meant. In the Auric-Halco's barrier, losing meant your body survived, but your soul was gone. The only way to save souls taken by the serpent god the arbiter is to defeat him, as Adam once proved. Kira glanced at the deck on the table. Koyo's deck. Yet. The semifinals are all tough. I need to power up my deck. And now, I have to fight for Mr. Koyo too. I knew you'd say that. Kira shrugged. So even if I told you to quit now, you wouldn't listen, would you? Of course not, Jaden replied. Mr. Koyo fought as a duelist to the very end. How could I give up here? I thought so. Kira nodded, handing him a sheet of paper. What's this? Jaden asked. Information on the Auric-Halco's deck the arbiter might use. Kira explained. Kaiba and I know these cards well. You're the only one in the semifinals who hasn't seen them. If you face the arbiter, you'll be at a big disadvantage. Jaden glanced at it, moved. Kira, you prepared all this. Don't get sentimental yet. This is just in case, Kira said seriously. But I think it's likely he won't use these cards. As you saw in his duel with Koyo, the arbiter may use many different decks. Like you and Misawa. Jaden nodded. Yeah, something like that, Kira said. Anyway, just in case. But his strongest deck is probably still Auric-Halco's. But if you do duel him, be ready for anything. Yeah, I know. Jaden nodded quickly. Seeing him so eager, Kira realized his advice might be pointless. For Jaden, there was no such thing as preparing for a duel, he always just did his thing, no matter the opponent. But honestly, if Jaden really did face the arbiter, Kira wasn't optimistic. In the anime and manga, Jaden is a classic growth protagonist. But right now, he's only halfway through first year, no masked heroes, no Neos, Supreme King's power unawakened, Yubel still drifting in space, he has no trump cards. He'd just inherited Koyo's advanced hero deck, which was an upgrade, but still against the Arbiter's level. Honestly, Kira thought even with luck, Jaden's chances were slim. But Jaden wouldn't listen anyway. Kira had said all he could, now it was up to Jaden. By the way, during the duel, the Arbiter did something to you. Do you feel anything odd? Kira asked. Jaden frowned, staring out the window. I can't say for sure. Can't say. It felt weird, he said after thinking. I saw lots of random images, like, memories. But strange I don't remember having those memories. Jaden thought harder. Someone kept calling my name. Jaden, Jaden, over and over, like from somewhere far, far away. Kira pondered. It might be the lost memories from Jaden's childhood, or his past life. But either way, it was probably related to Yubel. The voice calling him was likely Yubel. In the anime, Yubel said even after being sent into space, she could still sense Jaden. Even far from Earth, their bond remained. She kept calling to him, and Jaden had nightmares every night. Until Kaiba Corp erased those memories, and the connection was severed. Jaden completely forgot about Yubel. Could it be that the Arbiter's interference was restoring his link to Yubel? Chapter 405, Shattered Memories, Bonus. The molten gold of sunset spilled across the deep blue sea, as the massive ship gradually sailed into the harbor. The dual ship had docked. Everyone stood up and gathered on the deck, gazing at the final stage of the tournament where they had arrived. Outlined by the setting sun, the island looked especially magnificent. Colorful buildings dotted the coastline in an artful arrangement. Towering into the clouds was a giant Ferris wheel, its design featuring a Kuriboh-like head, sparkling brilliantly in the sunset. The dazzling lights made the entire island feel like a world of fairies. A three-dimensional projection of a white dragon soared high in the sky, letting out a resounding roar. White Dragon Park. Kira wondered aloud. In such an out-of-this-world place? That's right, this is the newest, yet-to-open White Dragon Park, but it's unlike any ordinary amusement park, Mokuba explained proudly. This is White Dragon Island, an island purchased by the Kaiba Corporation, and it marks a new stage in the White Dragon Park project. Kira, as expected of President Kaiba naming an entire island after the White Dragon. At this rate, it's probably only a matter of time before a White Dragon City is built. The finals venue was right in the center of this unopened amusement park, the world's highest spec-dedicated duel arena. The contestants disembarked, passed through most of the venue, and came to the stage. The White Dragon bingo machine randomized the final duel order. First match of the top 4, Jaden was up against the Arbiter. Kira wasn't too optimistic about Jaden's chances, but he'd already said as much. Jaden strode onto the dueling arena without hesitation, standing before the Arbiter. You've arrived. The Arbiter smiled lightly. Jaden Yuki. I overlooked you before. You seem to be an interesting duelist, he said, narrowing his eyes. Let me see what you're hiding through this duel. I don't know what you're talking about, Jaden replied, but when it comes to duels, I always give it my all. That's just as well, the Arbiter smiled. Duel. X2. Jaden, LP 4000. Arbiter, LP 4000. I'll go first. Draw. The Arbiter drew his card, glanced at it, then played it immediately. Normal summon Armageddon Knight. A knight clad in black armor, as if forged from shadows. His long hair fluttered in the sunset, a red mask covered most of his face, and he wielded a gleaming longsword. Armageddon Knight, ATK 1400. When Armageddon Knight is successfully summoned, I can send a dark monster from my deck to the graveyard. A golden flash shot from the Arbiter's deck, as if the card flew automatically to his hand. I send the dark monster Stygian Street Patrol to the graveyard. The monster card slid from his dual disc into the graveyard. Turn end. He narrowed his eyes, a green glint flickering as he sized up Jaden. Come, your turn. Show me your duel, and your secrets. Jaden met his gaze, suddenly feeling a bit dizzy for no reason. It was that same strange sensation as before. His temples throbbed dully, his head felt heavy. Images flashed chaotically through his mind, confused, blurry, yet instinct told him they were important. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make out what they were. Jaden shook his head, trying to shrug off the strange feeling. Either way, he had to focus on the duel first. My turn, draw, said Jaden. I activate the spell card polymerization. I fuse Elemental Hero Avian and Elemental Hero Burstinatrix from my hand. Fusion Summon. Appear, my beloved hero. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. Wind and fire combined, and a swirling vortex erupted in a flaming tornado, as if the air itself was about to boil. A blazing dragon of fire flew out from the vortex, spinning as it emerged, manifesting as a hero who landed upright. Snow-white wings spread, the dragon head on his arm spat fire, and the green-bodied hero stood tall before Jaden. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, ATK 2100. Starting with Flame Wingman already. Kira muttered. In the anime, this was the standard opening for the later, level max Jaden, a big improvement over his early habit of just summoning a normal monster and ending his turn. Though opening with a -3 hand is risky, it's hard to comment for now. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, attack Armageddon Knight. Jaden commanded. Flame shoot. Flame Wingman leapt into the air, spinning and cloaking himself in fire, diving down like a meteor. Armageddon Knight raised his sword to block, but couldn't withstand the impact. The flames pierced through, engulfing him in a huge fireball. Arbiter, LP 4000 LP 3300. It's not over. Jaden said. Flame Wingman's effect, when it destroys a monster by battle, it deals damage to the opponent equal to the destroyed monster's ATK. Flame Wingman landed before the Arbiter, the dragon head on his arm opening wide and unleashing a blaze, scorching the Arbiter. Arbiter, LP 3300 LP 1900. The Arbiter took the attack calmly, his hair and cloak fluttering in the flames. Then he looked at Flame Wingman, who returned to Jaden's side, and said meaningfully, an effective attack. But is that truly your beloved monster? He narrowed his eyes. Are you sure? What? Jaden was puzzled. Of course, what are you talking Abua? He staggered, suddenly feeling dizzy again. Once more, those inexplicable images surged from deep within his mind. He saw an ancient castle, a kind old man with a white beard, smiling at him. And a gentle, beautiful face, bathed in sunlight, smiling and saying something. But he couldn't hear the words. It all felt important. The person before him also seemed important. But why, couldn't he remember anything? Forcing himself back to reality, Jaden felt as if he'd barely escaped a raging whirlpool. No, this opponent can't be beaten with a distracted mind. He had to focus. I set a card face down and end my turn. P.S. Bonus chapter at 500 PS. Chapter 406, Forgotten Past. Still haven't remembered, hey. The Arbiter watched Jaden. You keep saying that, what are you talking about? Jaden frowned. But the Arbiter said no more. My turn, draw. The Arbiter said, I activate the spell card Graceful Charity. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2. He drew, added them to his hand, then discarded 2. He looked up. Last turn, you destroyed my Armageddon Knight, which had sent Stygian Street Patrol to the graveyard. That means there are 2 dark monsters in my graveyard. And with the 2 I just discarded, I sent another dark monster to the graveyard. That makes 3 dark monsters in total. Jaden was taken aback. 3 dark monsters in the graveyard, so what? But Kira's eyes narrowed. 3 dark monsters, that means. So the condition for this card's summon is met. This card can only be special summoned if there are exactly 3 dark monsters in the grave. The Arbiter slowly raised the card in his hand. Let the power of darkness descend. Dark Armed Dragon, summon. Dark Armed Dragon. Jaden was shocked. He'd seen Armed Dragon before, a trophy card of the Northern Academy, inherited by Chaz. But this Dark Armed Dragon was new. A mighty dragon, covered in steel blades, roared as it descended just like the Armed Dragon LV7 in Jaden's memory, except its body was pitch black. Dark Armed Dragon, ATK 2800. Impressive, Kira frowned. Dark Armed Dragon, just from the name and look, you could tell it was a dark version of Armed Dragon. When it debuted in the real card game, it caused a huge stir, easy to summon, top-tier attack, fantastic removal effect. For a long time, players thought it should be banned, like the Chaos cards. In the end, it never was banned, but it was limited for over a decade, which says enough about its power. Dark Armed Dragon's effect: by banishing a dark monster from my graveyard, I can destroy 1 card on the field. He banished a card from his graveyard, its image appeared in midair. I banish Armageddon Knight from my graveyard, let it become ammo for Dark Armed Dragon. Dark Armed Dragon, destroy Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. Armageddon Knight's image was swallowed by darkness, energy flowing into Dark Armed Dragon. Black energy shot toward Flame Wingman. Jaden frowned. Just as Kira warned, anything could happen in a duel. This Arbiter really could use any deck, not just his signature cards. But Jaden had his own tricks. I activate the Trap Guard Mines. When a card effect would destroy my monster, negate the activation and destroy it. Then inflict 500 damage to your opponent. The trap worked. Floating bomb spheres formed a shield in front of Flame Wingman. The black energy ball exploded against the wall, setting off a chain of blasts that rebounded toward Dark Armed Dragon, engulfing it in flames. Arbiter, LP 1900 LP 1400. Nice counterattack. Midori cheered. Not only did he save Flame Wingman, he took down such a strong monster. Not bad. But the Arbiter calmly revealed another card. Spell card, Monster Reincarnation. Discard a card, take a monster from the graveyard back to the hand. He discarded a card, the graveyard glowed with black energy. Dark Armed Dragon immediately returned. I retrieved Dark Armed Dragon from my graveyard. That guy again. Jaden said. But Dark Armed Dragon needs 3 darks in the graveyard. Your Armageddon Knight was just banished. True, the Arbiter noted, but when I used Monster Reincarnation to get Dark Armed Dragon back, I discarded a card, remember? Jaden, so that was... Right, it was another dark. He raised the card again. Once more, darkness descends. Dark Armed Dragon, summon. Dark energy erupted again. The black dragon twisted its hulking form, returning to the field. Dark Armed Dragon, ATK 2800. Now I activate Dark Armed Dragon's effect again, banish another dark from the graveyard to destroy a card on the field. He banished another monster from his grave. Dark Armed Dragon's effect can be used as many times as you have ammo in the graveyard. There's no activation limit. So I banish another dark to destroy Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. With fresh ammo, a black energy sphere formed before the dragon, launched at Flame Wingman. This time, there was no trap to protect him. The dark energy exploded against Flame Wingman, who groaned and vanished. Jaden raised his arm reflexively, Flame Wingman. Now for battle. The Arbiter smiled mysteriously. Let me help you recall a little more. What? The Arbiter waved his hand. Dark Armed Dragon, direct attack. As he gave the order, a strange green light flickered in his eyes. A black blast exploded on Jaden. Jaden, LP 4000 LP 1200. A dark current swept over him. He braced for pain, but none came. No pain, only endless darkness. All sight and sound was swallowed, as if even his senses were stripped away. And in that void, that voice called again. Jaden! Jaden! Jaden Yuki! Chapter 407, Inherited Will. Ugh! Jaden shook his head, forcing himself to focus on the duel. As the darkness faded, he looked up in shock. For a moment, the Arbiter had vanished, replaced by a humanoid monster, odd-colored eyes, wide bone wings, a third eye on its forehead, watching him with a mix of resentment and excitement. Jaden recoiled, but in a blink, the figure disappeared, and the Arbiter was back. I haven't used my normal summon this turn. I set a monster in face-down defense position and end my turn. The Arbiter casually set a monster, then looked at Jaden with an amused expression. What did you see, Jaden Yuki? Draw. Jaden ignored him. But his mind was a mess. Those chaotic, seemingly foreign memories filled his thoughts. The fleeting image lingered, impossible to shake. Kuri. Winged Kuruba's voice. Partner. Jaden glanced at it, smiled, you're cheering for me too? Thanks. He straightened up and set another card. I set a monster in defense and end my turn. A set monster appeared on his field too. Deeply buried memories indeed, the Arbiter said. Maybe just a bit more. My turn, draw. He flipped his set monster. Flip summon Magical Merchant. Magical Merchant, ATK 200. When this card is flip summoned, I reveal cards from the top of my deck until I reveal a spell or trap. That card goes to my hand, the rest to the graveyard. He revealed 5 cards, the 5th was a spell. I add Monster Reborn to my hand, and the rest go to the grave. Jaden, so you're filling your grave with dark monsters again. Then I tribute Magical Merchant to tribute summon. He revealed another card. Appear Hellpomer. Hellpomer, ATK 2000. Next, I activate Monster Reborn to revive a monster from the graveyard. He gestured at Jaden. I choose your beloved hero. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman. In the real card game, Flame Wingman can't be revived from the graveyard, but there's no such restriction in the anime. The reborn symbol appeared above the Arbiter, flames swirling into the form of Flame Wingman, now on the Arbiter's side. Elemental Hero Flame Wingman, ATK 2100. Flame Wingman. Jaden muttered. Mokuba was nervous. Brother, this guy's built an insanely strong field again, and there's still that dark-armed dragon. Kaiba frowned, silent. Was this as far as Jaden would go? Dark-armed dragon's effect, banish a dark from the graveyard to destroy any card on the field. The Arbiter revealed a dark monster from the graveyard. Magical Merchant replenished my grave with darks. I banish one to destroy your set monster. A black blast targeted Jaden's last line of defense. If this monster was destroyed, he'd be left wide open. Boom! The explosion tore through the set monster, but its image briefly flickered. Curry. Thanks, partner. Jaden raised his arm, a transparent shield appeared before him, like a force field. When Winged Kuruba is destroyed, I take no battle damage this turn, Jaden said. Arbiter, I see. Then I set a card and end my turn. Jaden took a deep breath. His vision blurred, his mind sluggish. He was starting to believe the Arbiter wasn't just bluffing. The Arbiter's words were probably true. Jaden's memories had gaps, he was hiding secrets even from himself, he'd forgotten something important. But he looked up, recalling the towering figure of Koyo Hakibi. From now on, it's up to you, Jaden. Yes, he'd made up his mind to inherit Koyo's will, to fight as a true duelist. He couldn't give up now. My turn, draw. Oh. The Arbiter observed him. His confidence seemed back, his eyes were steadier. I summon Elemental Hero Bublemon. Elemental Hero Bublemon, ATK 800. When Bublemon is summoned while I control no other cards, I draw 2 cards. Anime effect. Jaden drew 2 cards. Next, I activate Pot of Greed to draw 2 more. It looked like Jaden was regaining his touch Bublemon and Pot of Greed in quick succession. He stared at one card in his hand, then closed his eyes. I won't let you down, Mr. Koyo. He opened his eyes, raising the card. I activate Polymerization. I fuse Elemental Hero Woodsman from my hand with the Water Elemental Hero Bublemon on my field. Bring forth the power to freeze all things. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Snow swirled, ice crystals burst, and the pure white hero landed with folded arms. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, ATK 2500. There it is, Mr. Hibiki's hero. Mokuba said. Zane frowned. It feels a little different. He sensed that the Absolute Zero Jaden summoned was different from the one Koyo had summoned. But that was a difference on a spiritual level, felt stronger, but hard to pin down. Then I activate Fusion Recovery to return Polymerization and Elemental Hero Woodsman from my graveyard to my hand. Jaden retrieved the 2 cards and played once more. I activate Polymerization again. This time, I fuse Elemental Hero Woodsman and Elemental Hero Ocean from my hand. Everyone was surprised. A second fusion? Fusion summon, Mr. Koyo's soul, a hero of the Planet series. Elemental Hero Terra Firma. Chapter 408, The Beloved Monster, Bonus. Terra descends. The white giant landed, setting off a towering cloud of dust, its huge form stretching up into the sky. Elemental Hero Terra Firma, ATK 2500. Jaden summoned both of Koyo's ace cards in one go. Mokuba couldn't help but exclaim, impressive. Midori looked at Jaden on the stage. For a moment, she almost saw Koyo's silhouette overlapping with that boy, and she lost herself in thought. So this is what you want to pass on through dueling, Koyo? She murmured. It's not over yet. Elemental Hero Terra Firma's effect activates. By tributing Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, Terra can absorb its ATK and def values. Earth Burn. At Jaden's command, Absolute Zero transformed into pure energy and merged with Terra. Terra's snowy white body instantly turned scorching hot, like molten lava pouring from its body, glowing red as if it were a brand heated in a forge. Elemental Hero Terra Firma, ATK 2500 5000. 5000 attack points. The Arbiter looked up at Terra, as if staring straight at the spirit of Koyo. Trying to decide it all with a single blow. It's still not over. At this moment, Elemental Hero Absolute Zero's new ability activates. Absolute Zero. What? The crowd gasped. Even Kaiba looked visibly unsettled this time. Did this kid just evolve his monster mid-duel using the power of a duelist? It wasn't without precedent after all. The Dragon Master Knight that Yugi and Kaiba fused was born under similar circumstances. But such occurrences were so rare as to be almost non-existent. It required not only a duelist's powerful destiny, but also an extraordinary bond with one's monster, what many called a bond. Only in extremely specific circumstances, when a duelist and their monster resonated to a high degree, could a monster evolve on its own during a duel. This is what's known as card imprinting. Just like Jaden now, awakening a hidden power in his ace card, originally Koyo's Elemental Hero Absolute Zero. Though it lasted only a moment, the Arbiter clearly saw a flash of gold in the boy's eyes. A burning, awe-inspiring golden gaze. But it was only for a split second, then his eyes returned to normal. I knew I wasn't wrong about him. The Arbiter smiled. He really is an interesting kid. Elemental Hero Absolute Zero, new effect. When this card leaves the field, destroy all monsters on your opponent's field. Such a strong effect. Mokuba was shocked. Absolute freezing, as if the whole field's temperature dropped to absolute zero. No ordinary creature could survive such an Arctic hell. Arbiter's dark-armed dragon, flame wingman, and hell pomer, all monsters were instantly frozen and shattered into glittering crystals in seconds. Interesting, very interesting. The Arbiter grew even more interested. Battle. The final strike. Jaden declared. Terra's attack will end this duel. First, the ultimate chill. Then, the fury of molten lava. With 5000 attack points, Terra absorbed all that molten energy, forming a flaming sword of destruction in its hand. Even the audience held their breath. Will he win? Not bad, you've managed to draw out a bit of your true power. But it's still not enough. The Arbiter spoke calmly. It seems I'll have to force you to face your past. Only then will that sleeping soul awaken. What did you say? Jaden frowned. Doma's resources cover the world. We know everything that's ever happened. Since you've forgotten, let me help you remember. The Arbiter continued, quietly. That year, you'd just learned about duel monsters. Your father returned from a business trip and brought you that rare card, the monster you truly loved, a card with special meaning to you. Jaden froze. That distant voice echoed in his mind again. Jaden. Jaden. There it was again, that voice. His heart pounded, his mind grew foggy. Jaden clutched his head, stumbling. What is it? What have I forgotten? Something so important? No, I can't lose my rhythm. I have to finish this duel first. Elemental Hero Terra Firma. Jaden shouted. Direct attack. As the flaming blade was drawn, his headache worsened. He staggered, almost losing his balance. But the command went through. Terra leaped across the frozen field, its heat melting all ice and snow. The earth blade struck, 5000 attack points, slashing right for the Arbiter. Trap activate. The Arbiter flicked his hand. Trap card, intruder alarm, yellow alert. When your opponent declares an attack, special summon a monster from your hand, and your opponent's monster must attack that monster instead. Anime effect. Jaden's headache peaked. Something important was coming, something that mattered deeply to him. Special summon from my hand, meet your old friend. The Arbiter calmly flipped a card. Yubel, summoned. Thorny vines burst from the ground, swirling. Within them, the shadow of a demon took shape, cloaked in black bone wings. Then suddenly, the wings unfurled, and a demon with a feminine form slowly raised her heterochromatic eyes opening coldly to look at Jaden. Yubel, ATK 0. Even Kira was surprised now. Yubel? Could she have been intercepted by Doma on her way back from space? Given Doma's global reach and power, it wouldn't be difficult. But looking more closely, Kira saw this card wasn't a spirit. So perhaps, while Yubel's card is rare, it's not unique. Only the one Jaden had as a child contained the spirit with a deep bond to him. This one was just a rare monster card, nothing special. With the Arbiter's resources, getting it was easy. Jaden stared wide-eyed at the monster across from him. Suddenly, memories pieced themselves together in his mind. The card he loved most, his first spirit, the monster with the most special meaning to him. Intruder alarm, yellow alerts effect. Terra must attack Yubel, the Arbiter said. But Yubel's attack is only 0. Mokuba shouted. Kaiba frowned, no, that monster's special effect. Yubel cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage from battles involving her. Moreover, the Arbiter added calmly, the damage is reflected back to your opponent. What? Mokuba gasped, that's broken. Terra's 5,000 point slash struck Yubel, but did nothing. Instead, Yubel's vines absorbed all the molten energy, striking back at Jaden like lightning. Jaden was pierced through the chest, staggering backward, but kept staring at the monster that dealt the final blow. Why Yubel? Chapter 409, The Road to the Final Duel. Jaden. Midori was the first to rush onto the stage after the duel. Jaden was wobbling, half kneeling, head down, looking half dead. But when she helped him up, he turned to her with a reassuring smile. Don't worry, Sensei, I'm fine. Sorry. I still lost. Only then did Midori relax, breathing a sigh of relief. She ruffled Jaden's hair. It's okay, you did great. As long as you're safe. Yet she was a bit puzzled, glancing at the Arbiter. Midori now clearly understood how terrifying a shadow duel was. Usually, losers ended up soulless and unconscious. Her brother, Koyo, had just fallen into a coma after losing to this very man. But Jaden seemed fine. She realized the Arbiter hadn't used that ominous seal of Orichalcos this duel. Supposedly, those who lose inside it have their souls taken. Why? She didn't believe for a second it was because the Arbiter was afraid he'd lose. Even she could tell he was a duelist beyond normal limits. Throughout the duel, he'd been completely calm. As much as she hated to admit it, it seemed he'd been in control from the start, both with Koyo and Jaden. So why spare Jaden? Do you want his other soul? Kira spoke up as the Arbiter stepped down from the stage. The Arbiter paused, squinting at Kira. Oh. He said. Fujiki Kira, you're becoming more and more interesting. How much do you know? They stared at each other for a few seconds. You guessed right, the Arbiter nodded, glancing at Jaden. This boy is only halfway there. Even if I beat him now, I'd only get a decent duelist's soul. But I don't really need more souls like that. He spoke calmly. In fact, if I did that, I'd lose the connection to the powerful soul I really want. That would be a waste. As Kira suspected, his real target was the Supreme King. The seal of Orichalcos only takes a single soul, like when Adam lost and Yugi offered himself in his place. The Arbiter must have decided that even if he won here, it only net him Jaden's soul not worth it. He was after the Supreme King. But what do you mean, a connection to the powerful soul? Kira asked. Logically, the Supreme King should be inside Jaden, albeit deeply asleep, like an inner personality. If the Arbiter beat Jaden now, wouldn't that awaken the inner personality? Then he could duel and defeat the Supreme King, and claim that power. But he said otherwise, that beating Jaden now would cut off the connection. So does that mean the Supreme King isn't actually inside Jaden? The Arbiter didn't explain, just gave a strange laugh. Well, who knows? He walked past Kira, pausing briefly behind him. But if I were you, I wouldn't have the time to worry about others right now. Half his body cloaked in shadow, he spoke coldly. Soon, it'll be your turn. Once I collect all the sealing device you possess. He chuckled darkly, then walked away. Kira. As the Arbiter left, a tall figure stepped in front of him. Seto Kaiba. You needn't worry about that, Kaiba said coolly. Because I'll be the one to defeat him in the end. Kira understood. The semifinals first match Jaden vs the Arbiter was over. Now, only he and Kaiba remained. If he lost to Kaiba, he'd have nothing to do with the final. Saving the world and all that would be Kaiba's job. In the past, he might have thought that a good deal. I understand, Kira said to Kaiba, but I won't go easy on you, President. Humph. Kaiba's lips curled in a slight, approving smile. That's more like it. In half an hour, right here. Don't keep me waiting. He turned to leave, then paused and looked at Jaden on stage. Your friend, he's a proud duelist too. One day, he'll stand at the top of the world. Don't get left behind. I know, Kira nodded. Kaiba left without another word. Kira finally walked onto the field, approaching Jaden. How are you feeling? My head still hurts. Jaden lay on the ground, sighing. Ah, it's so frustrating to lose. I warned you, Kira shrugged. But, it was a great duel. Jaden sat up, suddenly lost in thought. More importantly, what the arbiter said. I think he was right. What do you mean? About forgetting something important. Jaden paused. Now I remember. She was my first spirit, my favorite monster. But later, for reasons I couldn't help, she was launched into space. I don't know where she is now. Kira patted his shoulder. Either way, you remembered now, right? As long as you have a bond with your monsters, you'll meet again someday. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Jaden slapped his cheeks and perked up. Before that, I have to become a more reliable duelist. He sprang to his feet. Now, it's time to cheer for Kira. Your opponent is Seto Kaiba, so jealous, I never got that chance. Chapter 410, The Final Qualifier. Koyo lay in a hospital bed, eyes closed, hooked up to life support and monitoring devices. Sorry, Mr. Koyo, Jaden said at the bedside, scratching his head. Looks like I lost after all. As I said, you did more than enough, Midori replied softly. If Koyo knew, he'd be proud. Kira thought, of course Jaden literally imprinted a new effect onto a card. After that duel, Absolute Zero is now epic level, a huge upgrade for elemental heroes. If Jaden keeps pushing himself and triggering those power plays, all hero duelists worldwide will benefit. What a walking, living card printer. But Kira had something else on his mind. Though it was just a brief moment, he was sure he'd seen it. Jaden's eyes flashed dangerously gold for an instant, the mark of the Supreme King. But when he asked Jaden, the boy was clueless. Nope, didn't feel anything, Jaden said. If anything, I remember feeling frustrated, wanting to put everything into that duel. Everything after that was just instinct. As Kira suspected, even the person himself couldn't explain it. But Kira had a bold theory. Though Jaden is the Supreme King's reincarnation, there was no hint of it in the early anime. It was clearly a late addition by the writers and felt abrupt. So maybe, although he's the reincarnation, the Supreme King wasn't actually inside him all along? Otherwise, why didn't he awaken during all Jaden's early crises, even after losing to Aster with the power of the Light of Destruction? And when Jaden went to the alternate dimension to save Jessie, the spirits there already knew the Supreme King. Combining this with the Arbiter's words, Kira suspected. Jaden is closely linked to the Supreme King, but perhaps the Supreme King wasn't dormant inside him, but in the spirit world, one of the 12 dimensions from the anime. Still, the Supreme King's on-screen duels were few and ambiguous. He seemed strong, but Kira couldn't judge his true strength. After all, the Supreme King only had one win and one draw. Even against Jim, the Supreme King actually lost at first, but the writers miscounted by 100 life points, so he survived with 50 and made a comeback. In the DVD version, this was corrected by lowering Jim's monster's ATK to 1200. That's also why the real card has 1200 ATK. But anime win rates aren't everything. Plenty of bosses lost to the main characters. Even Darts never actually won, except a tag duel against Kaiba. The real MVP was Yubel. She wasn't just a one-shot boss, she dueled again and again, and always in quality matches. She faced Hell Kaiser Zane in rage mode, Adrian who sacrificed his lover to unlock the Dark Magician, and even took on Jaden and Jessie together. She faced Jaden 3 times, including a 2v1 and a duel after the Supreme King was unsealed. She never lost, giving up her only draw intentionally to steal super polymerization. Ignoring power scaling, Yubel has by far the most glorious record of any boss in Yu-Gi-Oh! Kira figured, now that he'd found a way to the spirit world, he could visit those 12 dimensions someday and see if the Supreme King was there. But first, the tournament. 20 minutes left. Kira returned to his room for final deck adjustments. It's finally here. My opponent Seto Kaiba. The world's top duelist, and Kira's best chance yet to test himself. His spirits seemed excited too. Seto Kaiba, the strongest duelist. Jinzo crossed his arms, calm as ever. No matter. I'll do my part. He. Shadow Monarch snickered. Jinzhou frowned. What's funny? Don't make me laugh. You bully weaklings, but against Blue Eyes, what good are you? Block our own back row. It's true. President Kaiba is a balanced duelist, but relies less on traps than Kira. Against him, Jinzhou's skills are less useful. Jinzhou was speechless, then snapped, then what good are you? He's all light monsters, your dark killer effect is useless. Shadow Monarch retorted, at least I can banish, even banish myself for damage. Can you? They were about to argue more when the silent magician's white staff extended between them. She glared, ready to fight. Both spirits instantly fell silent, glaring at each other but saying nothing. However you choose to attack, Black Luster Soldier floated behind, my sword is always at your side. He had no choice, he does what his master asks. Even as the legendary warrior, if the master wanted him to run a burn loop, he'd obey. Alright, let's go. Kira put away his deck, slotted it into his dual disc, and stood up. Can't keep the president waiting, right? / Kira vs Kaiba. Who do you think will win? Chapter 411, The Final Four. Slotting his deck into place and securing his dual disc, Kira stood up and left the room. But just as he was about to leave, he suddenly felt a faint tremor from the inside pocket of his jacket. He paused, reaching in to pull out the mini Millennium Puzzle, the sealing device. It seemed that just now, this thing had moved slightly. Up to now, it had only reacted to powerful dark forces, remaining dormant otherwise. Could it be that this next duel, which would determine whether he or Kaiba would face the root of Orichalcos directly, was what triggered the reaction? Or perhaps it was because of the long-standing connection between Kaiba and Adam. They had always been fated rivals, entwined in a love-hate fate for over 3,000 years. That it would respond to Kaiba and the power of his white dragon wasn't surprising. But now, holding it in his hand, it seemed to have gone still again. Kira considered for a moment. Whatever the case, he decided to wear it around his neck. Who knew if it would help, but better to have it. Not only for his duel with Kaiba, if he had to face the Arbiter at the end, it would probably come in handy. Walking down the long corridor and stepping onto the dueling field, he saw that Kaiba had already been waiting. You're here, Kaiba said, slowly opening his closed eyes to look at Kira. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. President, Kira replied, taking his place opposite. Kaiba chuckled quietly. So much change in just half a year, he said calmly. Fujiki Kira, let's see if I was wrong about you. I'll use this duel to find out. Kira said nothing, just activated his dual disc. There was no need for pleasantries with Kaiba. Dueling was the best form of communication. Duel. They both declared. Kira, LP 4000. Kaiba, LP 4000. Kira glanced at his dual disc. The indicator light for first turn was lit. No need for politeness, then. I'll take the first move. My turn, draw. He drew, quickly selecting two cards. I set a monster face down in defense position, and another card face down in the back row. End my turn. My turn, draw. Kaiba drew with a shout, and it was as if a whirlwind swept across the field. Spell card, Graceful Charity. Draw 3 cards, then discard 2. He drew 3, then discarded 2. Next, I activate the spell card, Trade In. I discard an 8-star Blue Eyes White Dragon from my hand to draw 2 more cards. After switching out cards, Kaiba immediately played another. Then I activate the continuous spell, Different Dimension Hanger. The spell card appeared, its power forming a pitch-black vortex in midair. His dual disc glowed pale blue, rapidly searching his deck. 3 cards popped out automatically. He pulled the cards and threw them into the air, where they briefly transformed into 3 mecha projections before vanishing into the vortex. Different Dimension Hanger lets me banish 3 Union monsters of level 4 or lower from my deck. Kaiba declared. Y Dragon Head, Z Metal Tank, and W Wing Catapult banish them. Anime card. Kira was no stranger to this. In the anime, it was used by Chaz, but now Kaiba wielded it. The XYZ series had always been one of Kaiba's primary strategies, even in DM, and in GX Chaz got those rare cards from Kaiba Corp. Of course, the president himself would have this support card. Next, Normal Summon, X Head Cannon. X Head Cannon, ATK 1800. Hanger's effect: when you summon or special summon a monster that's listed on any of the banished Union monsters, you can special summon those banished monsters. Two beams of gold shot down from the extra-dimensional vortex, landing left and right of Kaiba, forming a heavy tank tread and a mechanical dragon. Appear, Y Dragon Head and Z Metal Tank. Y Dragon Head, ATK 1500. Z Metal Tank, ATK 1500. Now, X Head Cannon, Y Dragon Head, and Z Metal Tank combine. Kaiba commanded. The three machines began to transform, electromagnetic tracks linking them together. Parts clashed and assembled, merging into the tricolored dragon cannon. The heavy tread slammed onto the ground. XYZ Dragon Cannon, ATK 2800. He summoned Dragon Cannon right away. Jaden exclaimed. This is the legendary Kaiba Sito duel, Zane observed. Absolute power, all-out attack from the start. But Kaiba just smiled faintly. To him, this was only an appetizer. XYZ Dragon Cannon's effect, discard a card to destroy any card on the field. He sent a card to the graveyard. Destroy the set card in your back row. The Dragon Cannon's barrel lowered, firing a barrage. Kira's set card was blasted into the air and shattered. Continuous trap, Dragon Capture Jar. As I thought, Kaiba sneered. The Dragon Capture Jar. That used to be my weakness. But I've long since surpassed my old self. If you think sealing my attacks with tricks like that is enough, you'll be disappointed. Kira shrugged. He knew Kaiba's deck was mostly dragons, but not pure dragons, not a surprise. Not done yet, Kaiba continued. I activate the spell, Iron Call. If I control a machine-type monster, I can special summon a level 4 or lower machine from my graveyard. The machine in your graveyard, discarded by graceful charity, right? Kira realized. So, it must be. Come forth, V-Tiger Jet. V-Tiger Jet, ATK 1600. At this moment, different dimension hangers effect triggers again, Kaiba said. When a monster listed on a banished union monster is summoned, that banished monster is special summoned too. He raised his arm, and the last golden light shot down from the black vortex. W-Wing Catapult, special summon. W-Wing Catapult, ATK 1300. V-Tiger Jet, W-Wing Catapult Combine. Then fuse with XYZ Dragon Cannon. Kaiba declared. Fusion Summon. VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon. Chapter 412, Growth. VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon, summoned. Kaiba, ruthless and concise, opened with his strongest 5-part fusion form. And his assault continued. VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon, effect. Kaiba shouted. Once per turn, banish any card on your opponent's field. That annoying wall monster, get out of my sight. The catapult cannon's electromagnetic weapon charged, unleashing blue thunder like a roaring dragon. The electromagnetic shock ripped through everything, distorting space itself. There was no deafening explosion, no spectacular fireball. But for a moment, space seemed twisted, and the lone set monster vanished, utterly erased. The image of winged Kuruba flickered, then faded. Ah, it was winged Kuruba, Jaden said. His spirit companion appeared, Kuri Kuri. It sounded a bit regretful that its counterpart couldn't help. Winged Kuruba can prevent all battle damage the turn it's destroyed, by battle or by effect, Jaden lamented. But if it's banished, there's nothing it can do. Winged Kuruba drooped its wings, Kuri. Kaiba Sito really is as terrifying as the stories say, Zane remarked. He wiped out the whole field in an instant, even bypassing Kuruba's powerful defense. He paused, frowning. Compared to himself, who also favored aggressive tactics, there was still a long way to go. He looked at Kira, eyes flickering. Facing someone like Kaiba. Could Fujiki Kira still stick to his style? If this is all you've got, it's far from enough. Kaiba roared. VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon, direct attack. At his command, the catapult cannon unleashed its full power. Beams of light sliced through the sky, vaporizing everything in their path. But just as the blast hit, a familiar yet unfamiliar shield appeared in front of Kira. Kuri Kuri. A golden, spherical barrier blocked the attack. Sphere Kuruba. I discard Kuruba from my hand to activate its effect, Kira declared. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, I can discard it to switch that monster to defense position. The catapult cannon immediately powered down, dropping to a crouch. VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon, ATK 3000 Def 2800. Mokuba sounded disappointed. Ah, such a perfect attack, and it still didn't get through. What else can you say? Kuroba is just too good. Humph, relying on weak monsters again. Kaiba sneered. Then I activate quick play spell, Super Rejuvenation. For every dragon I discarded or tribute this turn, I draw that many cards at the end phase. Kira, you discarded cards this turn with Graceful Charity, XYZ Dragon Cannon, and trade in. Correct, 3 dragons in total, Kaiba said coldly. So, at the end of my turn, I draw 3 cards. He waved his arm, and blue data currents formed card images. I set a card, end my turn. And in the end phase, I draw 3 cards. He drew 3. Come, Kira. If you've truly grown into a duelist worthy of this stage, prove it to me. Kira. He couldn't figure out how Kaiba was always so fired up, no matter what. Already a grown man, yet always spouting things like crush and shatter and the winds of battle roar on. Didn't he worry about embarrassing himself? He really had spirit. My turn, draw. Kira drew, quickly playing a card. I also activate Graceful Charity, draw 3, then discard 2. He considered his hand, then slowly pulled a card. I can feel it, Kaiba really is coming at me full force. Looks like I have to respond in kind. A flash of darkness crossed his eyes. So. I'll be counting on your power again. He raised the card. Before it even hit the field, an invisible whirlwind seemed to rise. Banish Magician of Faithfulness, Light, and Chaos the Shadow Monarch, Dark, from my graveyard. Souls of Light and Darkness, offered to the field of Chaos, let the legendary warrior descend. Heaven and earth split open. Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, summon. 1 beam of light, 1 of darkness, souls intertwined as beams shot skyward. Chaos burst forth, the knight, clad in heavy armor, holding sword and shield, descended in a storm of light and dark. Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, ATK 3000. Ha, there it is, the legendary warrior, Kaiba smirked. For a moment, he saw flashes of a long-lost rival. The one who also wielded Blackluster Soldier, and once fused it with his own ultimate dragon to create a miracle. Dragon Master Knight. Did you always know about this monster, Yugi? If you believe in it, it exists, Kaiba. Memories faded like smoke, but even after 10 years, his rival's voice and face were vivid. Kaiba closed his eyes, then returned to reality. Are you now a duelist who can control this monster? He said quietly. Let me see for myself. Kira swept his arm. Blackluster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning, attack VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon. VWXYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon, Def 2800. Thanks to Sphere Kuroba, Catapult Cannon was in defense position. The chaotic blade struck, light and darkness swirling, cleaving the catapult cannon in two. The giant mecha exploded, shattering into pieces. At this moment, Envoy of the Beginning's effect, Kira announced. When it destroys a monster in battle, it can attack again once per turn. Direct attack on Kaiba. Dimensional Slash, Twin Breaker. Chapter 413, Banishing and Drawing Power. Dimensional Slash, Twin Breaker. As the chaotic blade drew near, Kaiba faced it with a smirk. Now that's more like it, he declared. I activate the trap, counter gate. Your direct attack is negated, and I draw a card. A pale blue energy gate appeared before him. The barrage of sword slashes was sucked into the vortex and vanished. Kaiba drew a card. Then, I set 2 cards and end my turn, Kira said. Negate attack had another effect. If you draw a monster, you can immediately normal summon it. But apparently Kaiba either didn't draw a monster, or chose not to summon it. My turn, draw. Kaiba declared. I summon K-Bomb. A flash of golden light revealed a white-coated, Kaiba-like monster, arms folded, with a blue eyes helmet and long hair. K-Bomb, ATK 200. Kira. How is Kaiba able to summon himself without feeling awkward? Doesn't he feel embarrassed printing himself as a card? And why does K-Bomb only have 200 ATK? With Kaiba's physical prowess, he should at least be team captain level. Kaibaman's effect, tribute it to special summon Blue Eyes White Dragon from my hand. I tribute K-Bomb on descend. My strongest servant, the Dragon of Light that dispels all darkness. Blue Eyes White Dragon. The pure white dragon, sculpted like a gemstone, descended in a dazzling light. Its blue gem-like eyes shone, and its wings bathed in radiance, surrounded by rings of energy. Blue Eyes White Dragon, summoned. Blue Eyes White Dragon, ATK 3000. There it is. Jaden cheered. The legendary Kaiba Sito's strongest monster, said to rival the gods, Zane added. The real battle starts now. The strongest dragon versus the legendary warrior, a clash of titans. Or so everyone thought. But reality was. There it is, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Kira said, grinning mysteriously. His tone said, I've been waiting for this. Now, I activate my set trap. With a flourish, he revealed it. Karma Cut. Kaiba. Karma Cut. Discard a card to banish one face-up monster your opponent controls. Kira discarded a card to the graveyard. Banish Blue Eyes White Dragon. A dimensional vortex opened, pulling the white dragon in and erasing it without a trace. Not done yet, Kira smiled. If the monster banished by this effect has copies in your opponent's graveyard, all copies are banished as well. As he spoke, 2 beams of white light shot from Kaiba's graveyard, 2 more white dragons vanishing into the vortex. He had 2 more in his graveyard. The spectators gasped. 1 card, and 3 blue eyes gone. With no blue eyes left in his deck, what could Kaiba do? And, the card I discarded for Karma Cut was Learning Elf, Kira added. When it goes to the graveyard, I draw a card. He drew Karma Cut. Zane winced. He realized, hoping for a legendary clash between warrior and dragon was naive. Who is the Yellow King? He never fights head-on if he can mess with your mind. He imagined himself in Kaiba's place. If his 3 cyber dragons were banished, he'd probably lose it. Even Kaiba must be seething now. Kaiba stood with his head down, face darkening. Any moment now. Ha 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 ha. Kaiba suddenly laughed, startling everyone. Everyone. What a bizarre reaction, like he'd just hit his opponent with Karma Cut. Good, very good. Wiping out all my blue eyes at once, a deadly tactic. No matter how the blue eyes deck evolves, it's always built around those 3 core cards. Kaiba sneered. But if you think that's enough to stop me, you'll have to try harder. I activate Trade-In, discarding Tyrant Dragon to draw 2 cards. As he drew, an invisible whirlwind stirred his coat. Kaiba raised a card high, shouting. Activate. Spell card. Parallel World Fusion. Kira. Kaiba, you too? Well, in the original, it wasn't hero exclusive. Parallel World Fusion really is a generic fusion spell. Parallel World Fusion lets you shuffle banished monsters back into the deck as fusion materials for a fusion summon. Kaiba raised his arm. 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons, fuse from the banished zone. The crowd was stunned. Fusion from the banished zone. The strongest, ultimate dragon in history, transcending time and space, now descend here. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, summon. 3 blue eyes merged into a storm of white light. Particles condensed into a colossal dragon with 3 white heads and massive wings, its presence overwhelming. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, ATK 4500. Amazing, Jaden breathed. Zane murmured, he rebounded even after losing all his blue eyes. This is Kaiba Sito's true power, terrifying as ever. Mokuba was full of confidence. My brother's duels are the strongest. But then he remembered. Against Yugi, you have to banish it. Well, best not to dwell on the details right now. Chapter 414, Great power always comes with risk. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, summon. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon attacks Black Luster Soldier Envoy of the Beginning. Kaiba shouted. Ultimate Burst Stream. All 3 heads of the Ultimate Dragon opened at once, unleashing a white light like a torrent of destruction. At this moment, I activate my set card, Kira declared. Trap card, Card of Sacrifice. If the total ATK of all face-up attack position monsters you control is lower than the opponent's weakest monster, you draw 2 cards from your deck. However, the turn you activate this card, you can't summon monsters or change their battle positions in any way. Anime effect. The real card later added the requirement that you must control at least 2 monsters, making it much less practical. You have only Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon on your field, so it's the weakest monster. Black Luster Soldier's ATK is lower than the Ultimate Dragon's. Kira drew 2 cards. So I draw 2 cards. The ultimate dragon's blast swept forth, its terrifying power overwhelming everything. Even the black-luster soldier could not withstand it. His shield shattered in half a second under the white light, and he too was consumed, leaving the field. Kira, LP 4000 LP 2500. Kira raised his arm to shield himself, as blazing energy and a shockwave surged over him. As expected from President Kaiba, he's not so easily stopped. Wait. Jaden suddenly realized, Neo Ultimate Dragon can attack 3 times in one turn, so that means... The field was cleared again, and Kira still had to face 2 more attacks from the Neo Ultimate Dragon. Even the Kuroba could only block 1 hit, against the Ultimate Dragon's might, it was powerless. Kaiba swept his hand dramatically. The evolved dragon had surpassed even that weakling monster, Kuroba. So, in the end, are you only this kind of duelist? Is this where you fall? Kaiba threw back his head and shouted. Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon's direct attack. Ultimate Burst Stream, second strike. A world-ending shockwave, the light in the dragon's mouth declaring the end of the duel. Kira revealed a card from his hand. Now, Kaitoroid activates, he said. By discarding this card from my hand, I make 1 instance of direct attack damage become 0. The invincible kite appeared, its translucent body forming a barrier. Even the ultimate dragon's blast couldn't budge it. Then the third strike. Kaiba roared. Kaitoroid's second effect activates from the graveyard, Kira said. While it's in the graveyard, I can make direct attack damage become 0 one more time. Anime effect. 1 card blocking 2 hits. Now that's what you call a legendary card. Humph, barely hanging on with continuous defense, hey. Kaiba sneered. Defense isn't just for protection, President. Defense is also a form of attack. Kira smiled. I haven't forgotten the downside of your dragon. Humph. Kaiba replied coolly, Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon's multi-attack effect can only be used once per duel. After using it, at the end of the battle phase, it must destroy itself. Anime effect. As he spoke, the Neo Ultimate Dragon was already shrouded in white light, slowly dissolving into countless specks and fading from the field. Kaitoroid single-handedly took down the Ultimate Dragon, a story to brag about forever. I set 1 card and end my turn, Kaiba said. My turn. Draw. Kira glanced at his drawn card and immediately revealed it. Spell card, Pot of Greed. I draw 2 more cards. After replenishing his hand, he promptly played 1 card. I summon Breaker the Magical Warrior. Breaker the Magical Warrior, ATK 1600. The red-armored warrior landed on the field, sword and shield in hand. As he landed, a magical counter lit up on his shield. Kaiba narrowed his eyes slightly. That was another one of his monsters. The red armor belonged to a monster from Yami's deck, famous for the Berserker's 7 consecutive attacks. Maybe it was coincidence, but the monsters and strategies Kira used overlapped a lot with Kaiba's memories. When Breaker is summoned, it gains a spell counter and his ATK increases by 300, Kira said. But I'll immediately remove that counter to activate his second effect. Breaker can remove his counter to destroy any spell or trap card on the field. Kira pointed to Kaiba's back row, apparently the only card left defending him. Destroy that set card. Breaker swung his sword, a crescent arc of magical energy shooting at Kaiba's field. I activate my set card. Kaiba immediately triggered the targeted card before Breaker's attack landed. Trap card, Waboku. Monsters won't be destroyed by battle this turn, and any battle damage is reduced to 0. Several blue-robed messengers appeared, chanting and projecting a transparent shield around Kaiba. The magical blast split the trap in 2, but couldn't stop its effect. Kira, then I set 2 cards and end my turn. The spectators outside barely dared to breathe. Even though the ultimate dragon's finishing blow failed, Kaiba had already set up his defense in advance, Zane muttered. But now, the field is back in Kira's favor. Not so fast, Jaden said, still excited. The next draw could change everything. That's the real charm of dueling. True. Zane nodded. For these 2, this was just the beginning. My turn. Draw. Kaiba swept his hand. I set a card. Then I activate the spell card, Card of Demise. Draw cards until you have 5 in hand. The classic Kaiba draw engine, his hand was instantly refilled. But at the start of my 5th turn after this, I must discard my entire hand. Kira shrugged. So great power always comes with risk. In fact, in the original series, this downside was only triggered once, in the Pyramid of Light movie. That film also finally settled a long-standing debate over this card's effect, whether the 5 turns included both players or just your own turns. The movie confirmed it's your own 5th standby phase, so if it counted both, it would be the 9th turn. By then, your graveyard would be overgrown. You've at least become a decent duelist over these 6 months, Kaiba said. But that's still not enough to satisfy me. Watch closely, Kira, the real battle begins now. Chapter 415, The Ultimate Dragon. I activate the spell card, the Melody of Awakening Dragon. Kaiba played a card. Discard a card to add 2 monsters with ATK 3000 or more and def 2500 or less from my deck to my hand. Blue data streams flowed into his deck, and 2 cards popped out. From my deck, I add these 2 cards, Blue Eyes White Dragon and Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. With Parallel World Fusion, all 3 white dragons were shuffled back into the deck, Kira commented. Alternative White Dragon can be special summoned by revealing Blue Eyes White Dragon in hand. Kaiba slapped a card onto his duel disc. By revealing Blue Eyes White Dragon in my hand, I summon now appear. Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon. A variant of the White Dragon, its transformed, holy body hovered above Kaiba's field, flapping its bony wings and roaring. Blue Eyes Alternative White Dragon, ATK 3000. Alternative White Dragon's effect, once per turn, destroy a monster on the field. Kaiba yelled. Destroy Breaker the Magical Warrior. Alternative White opened its jaws, gathering brilliant white light, and blasted it out like a shattering storm. President Kaiba really doesn't give a single moment to breathe, he's always attacking at full force, Kira muttered. If you don't move forward, you're left behind a weakling who gets eliminated, Kaiba said coldly. Can you keep up and reach the top, or will you stand still? Fujiki Kira, prove your worth as a duelist. Alright, if that's how it is. Kira slowly raised an arm. I activate my set card. Continuous Trap, Light Imprisoning Mirror. As long as this card is on the field, all effects of light monsters activated on the field or in the graveyard are negated. Zane's eyelid twitched. It appeared. Ah, that trap again. Mokuba exclaimed. Also known as the Light Slayer, this trap is deadly against Kaiba's light-heavy deck. Whether it's VWXZ or the White Dragons, Kaiba's deck, like Yami's, mixes multiple series, but most of his monsters are light. The mirror reflected Alternative White Dragon's image, the white light in its jaws faded and disappeared. With this, most of Kaiba's monster effects should be sealed. And since its effect has been activated, it can't attack this turn either. Zane glanced at Kaiba. Once again, the situation seemed to have reversed. So, effect negation, hey? For Blue Eyes, that's a powerful lockdown. You must think so, right? Kaiba's eyes flashed with the spirit of a lion. But over the years, Blue Eyes has evolved beyond that. I activate the quick play spell Ultimate Fusion. A cyclone of light and wind swirled above the field, as if tearing the space apart. Ultimate Fusion is a Blue Eyes exclusive fusion spell, usable only in the main phase, Kaiba declared. By shuffling fusion materials from my hand, field, or graveyard back into the deck, I fusion summon a Blue Eyes fusion monster. A card left Kaiba's graveyard, joined by another in his hand and the alternative White Dragon on his field. The Blue Eyes I discarded, another in my hand, an alternative White Dragon, counted as Blue Eyes White Dragon. These 3 Blue Eyes fuse into one. Light Imprisoning Mirror only negates activated light effects. Alternative White Dragon is treated as Blue Eyes White Dragon by a continuous effect, so the mirror can't stop that, Zane muttered. Jaden, more fired up than anyone, shouted, oh, it's coming. Something amazing is about to appear. A triple fusion of the White Dragons, the original and legendary strongest dragon, shining like the brightest star in the sky. Its body was covered in white scales, blazing with an incandescent glow. Its wings commanded the wind and clouds, radiating pure majesty and power. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon descends. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, ATK 4500. Take the field in your ultimate form. Kaiba roared. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, as long as Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon is in the graveyard, cannot be affected by any of the opponent's effects. Anime effect. Whoa, isn't that invincible? Jaden exclaimed. Even Zane was moved. This is the so-called strongest dragon in Duel Monsters, Kaiba Seto's Ultimate Dragon. Kira raised his arm, blocking the radiant dragon, eyes narrowed. He could feel it, the dragon's power was enough to rival the gods. To face such a monster and duelist. He couldn't help but smile. Was it his imagination, or did the Millennium Puzzle seem to tremble as the ultimate dragon appeared, its godlike pressure descending? Even the Eye of Horus engraved on the artifact seemed to flash with golden light. Even in front of the ultimate dragon's strongest form, "You're still calm, hey?" Kaiba smirked, raising his hand. "Then take this destructive power." Ultimate fusion also has a follow-up effect depending on how many blue eyes white dragons used as material were on the field. I destroy that many cards on the field. That mirror card can't affect ultimate dragon now, but it's still an eyesore. Destroy a light imprisoning mirror. A blazing light bomb dropped, shattering Kira's mirror. Now, blue eyes ultimate dragon's direct attack. All three heads opened, unleashing a sky-splitting blast. A pillar of white light, hot as the sun's core, divided the sky. Kira. Jaden couldn't help but worry. An ultimate dragon immune to all effects, could Kira handle it? I activate the trap half counter, Kira said. When one of my monsters is attacked, its ATK and def increase by half the attacking monster's original ATK during damage calculation. So Breaker's ATK increases by half of Ultimate Dragon's ATK, that's 2250. Breaker the Magical Warrior, ATK 1600 3850. Breaker was powered up, but still couldn't withstand the dragon's might. His sword and shield shattered, and he was vaporized by the blast. Kira, LP 2500 LP 1850. Ha, half counter, a powerful trap. It could have taken out Ultimate Dragon if your monster's original ATK was above 2250, but you had to use it now. Too bad. Kaiba smirked. Kira was silent. True. If his monster's original ATK was over 2250, half counter could have turned the tables on Ultimate Dragon. This is the strongest power I have now with blue eyes. If you can defeat it, bring it on. Chapter 416, The Soul of the Spirit. Kira didn't really get why, but Kaiba seemed to be getting fired up again as the duel progressed. But the field was getting tense. An ATK 4500, nearly invincible monster. In future meta, it wouldn't be unbeatable, but most decks wouldn't have an answer for it. In this era, it was absolutely overpowered. Kaiba's deck really could dominate the world. But even now, it wasn't unsolvable. Still, with Kira's hand empty and field clear, if he only drew a defensive monster, he couldn't withstand Kaiba's next assault. Most of his usual traps and counters wouldn't work either. The Ultimate Dragon was immune to almost everything, even god cards. But that was only natural. Kaiba Sito is not someone you can beat with just tactics. To win this duel, Kira had to go one step further. He closed his eyes, fingers on his deck. Like Jaden said, don't think about what you'll draw next. Don't hope for anything, don't fear anything. Don't think, just feel. Live in the moment, as a duelist. Feel the energy flowing through his deck, the pulse of every card, every spirit. Kira drew. He kept his eyes closed the whole time, never even looking at what he drew. In one smooth motion, without looking, he played the card. I activate the spell card. Card of Sanctity. A rainbow shot into the sky, then shattered into 7 colors, as the card of Sanctity's power rained down. The spectators gasped. Did he know what he drew without looking? Mokuba was stunned. He remembered it had happened before, with Yugi. Even Kaiba had been amazed. But Jaden just nodded. Of course, Jaden smiled. A true duelist is connected to his deck by soul. Sometimes, when the feeling is right, you can sense your deck's response without even seeing it. Jellyfish had acted as if it was nothing special. Kaiba narrowed his eyes, but couldn't help but smile. That guy's card again. Exactly the same. Exactly. Back then, he'd cornered Yami the same way, even started celebrating his victory. But just as he was popping the champagne, Yami made an impossible draw card of Sanctity. That's the feeling. Kaiba's heart roared, the image of his old rival overlapping with the boy before him. Both players draw until they have 6 cards in hand. Kaiba drew with him, laughing. Ha, you've created a chance for yourself, but can you seize it? With today's card effects, even drawing 6 might not be enough to take down Ultimate Dragon. But as the cards entered his hand, Kira felt it. A strange energy, as if a new spirit drifted in one of the cards. Not Blackluster Soldier, not Silent Magician, not any of his usual spirits. People have said that duelists and monster spirits have mystical bonds. Sometimes a card used for long enough gains its own spirit. At this moment, he felt the birth of a new spirit, one awakened through countless battles, truly his own. He smiled. Here it comes. First, I summon this guy, Kira said, showing a monster card. Grinder Golem. Hey? An 8-star monster. Mokuba exclaimed. But not on my field, on yours, President Kaiba, Kira said. Grinder Golem can be special summoned to the opponent's field by tributing 2 of their monsters. And 2 tokens appear on my field. Grinder Token, ATK0x2. Then Grinder Golem is special summoned to your field, President. A vortex appeared, and the monstrous Grinder Golem rose on Kaiba's side, bristling with terrifying spikes. Grinder Golem, ATK 3000. Whoa, Kira summoned a monster that looks straight up villainous. Jaden joked. The crowd was stunned. Give your opponent such a strong monster? Why? This was a GX era card, but no one back then could have guessed it would someday be banned. Simple reason, Grinder Golem could spawn tokens on your field and itself on the opponent's, so with link monsters that bounce monsters back to hand, you could easily fill your field with tokens and gain massive advantage. But in the early days, no one realized. Kaiba frowned, suspecting Kira's plan. You, don't tell me. Kira smiled. Your ultimate dragon is so strong, this is Kaiba's power. Now, let me show you my ace, the strongest monster with my soul. He revealed a card. I tribute your Blue Eyes ultimate dragon and the Grinder Golem I just summoned to your field. From the abyss of lava, awakened with the power of destruction and rebirth. Level 8, Lava Golem. Chapter 417, Toward the Future, Bonus. The earth was torn open, as if a force from the very core of the planet erupted, shaking every inch of space. The air twisted, the temperature surged, as if the soul of a dormant volcano had been awakened. Huge cracks split the ground like ferocious wounds, spewing endless torrents of lava like thick blood under the setting sun, or the eternal flames of hell. And from within that searing chaos, a massive hand reached out, slamming down onto Kaiba's field. The rolling lava consumed the Grinder Golem, and even the invincible ultimate white dragon. Not even the noble ultimate resistance could stand against the unstoppable lava golem. In an instant, the president's ultimate dragon was devoured. Then the burning fool poked its head out from the lava onto this field, glanced at the president now locked in an iron cage, and somehow, its abstract face seemed to crack a simple, honest smile. There was even a hint of pleased to meet you in its demeanor. Kaiba. Lava Golem, ATK 3000. The audience was speechless. How to put it? The way Kira played this card, it really was intense. Like a classic duelist, trusting his deck, drawing the key card at the crucial moment, changing the world with a miraculous draw. But usually, miracle draws are about summoning a flashy monster to turn the tables. Especially in a situation like this, shouldn't it be, since all effects are negated, just break through head on, then summon a monster with 5,000 or 6,000 attack to cut down the ultimate dragon. But just as the tension peaked, this guy brings out a lava golem. How do you even judge this move? Most people wouldn't know what to say. TCH, Merrick's monster, hey. Kaiba snorted, but his mood was still stable. As expected of the president, any other duelist in this world, if their ultimate dragon with full resistance got devoured like that, would probably be rolling up their sleeves to fight already. But it wasn't over yet. I activate the spell card Take Over 5, sending the top 5 cards of my deck to the graveyard. Anime card. Kira drew 5 cards and sent them to the grave. One of the cards sent is the Monster Learning Elf, Kira said. When this card is sent to the graveyard, I draw 1 card. Manga card. He drew another card. Next, I activate the spell card Owner's Seal, Kira said. All monsters on the field return to their original owner's control. Come back, Lava Golem. Full and satisfied, Lava Golem patted its butt and leapt straight to Kira's side of the field. Kaiba. Lava Golem, direct attack. Kira declared. Infernal Volcano Impact. Lava Golem's palm crashed down, bringing a wave of scorching fire. With Kaiba's field wiped out, he took the full brunt of Lava Golem's attack, his coat billowing in the flames. Kaiba, LP 4000 LP 1000. I set one card face down and end my turn, Kira said. It hit. Jaden cheered first. As expected of Kira's soul card, Lava Golem. So strong. Zane looked conflicted. Well, how to say it? You can't say he's not impressive. It's just complicated. Facing Kira and his blazing lava golem, Kaiba was silent for a moment, but didn't draw right away. A few seconds later, he spoke. I haven't participated in any tournaments for many years, chasing after honors and all those things I once craved. He looked up at Kira and said calmly. But now I'm back on this stage, just like the starting point years ago. Still in Duelist Kingdom, still on this stage. Do you know why? Kira shook his head. He really didn't know. Back then, the title of King of Games was something Kaiba dreamed of. He challenged again and again, failing each time, but growing stronger with each setback, determined to win at any cost as if that honor was the ultimate goal of his life. But after Adam left, and Yugi Muta sealed his cards away, the title became all but his for the taking, yet he abandoned it. From Kira's perspective, he could only guess Kaiba felt that if he hadn't beaten the true strongest, the title was meaningless, a recognition from the world, but not from himself. But why did Kaiba now decide to make a comeback? That, Kira didn't understand. That infuriating guy once told me, those without a past will never have a future. Kaiba closed his eyes, a faint smile as he recalled the memory. Ironically, for the old me, all light existed only in the future, and the past was just a trail I'd left behind, meaningless to me. Who would have thought that one day, even I would become stuck in the past, unable to move forward? From the audience, Mokuba was dazed. Big brother. As Kaiba's younger brother and the person who knew him best, Mokuba vaguely sensed when this change began. It seemed to start when Kaiba insisted on going to the underworld to face Adam. After returning, Kaiba never spoke of what happened there, not even to Mokuba. No one knew what happened, whether he met Adam, or who won that duel. Or perhaps, something happened in that duel, a message or something said by Adam that pushed Kaiba to change. Yes, ever since Adam left, Kaiba too was stuck in the past, unable to move forward. He couldn't let go of Adam, nor the unresolved rivalry. Once, his ambitions were all in the future, so the past was meaningless. But after Adam's departure, the future suddenly lost its brilliance, and the future he pursued so desperately became pointless. It was only after returning from the underworld that he seemed to find direction again. I made a promise with that guy, a true duelist never stops, no matter where the road leads, Kaiba said solemnly. If gods block the way, then defeat the gods and keep going. Now, I have surpassed even the gods. For the chance to face that annoying guy again. Next time, I will stand before him as King of Games. His finger touched his deck. Draw. The moment he drew, it was as if endless azure light burst from the deck, as if just drawing the card released terrifying energy. Kira frowned slightly. That feeling. It seemed Kaiba had drawn something incredible. It was here. Kaiba's face clearly showed it, a confident smile on his lips. As if this draw had secured victory once again in his grasp. He slowly looked up. Next, you'll see the ultimate evolution beyond Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, the strongest Blue Eyes in history. Chapter 418, Dragon of Light, Bonus. The strongest Blue Eyes in history. Given that this was the anime world, and facing Kaiba, Kira had an idea of what it might be. If it was that, well, in theory, that card shouldn't exist anymore. But in any case, the answer was about to be revealed. I activate the spell card Shuffle Reborn, Kaiba declared. This card can only be activated when I have no monsters on the field. I select one monster from my graveyard to special summon. Azure data streams coalesced into a card, exiting his graveyard slot. My strongest servant, the ultimate dragon, Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, revive. A blinding white light and earth-shaking presence, the invincible three-headed white dragon returned in all its glory. Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, ATK 4500. So fast, he brought back Ultimate Dragon already. Not bad, President, Kira smiled. But monsters summoned by Shuffle Reborn have their effects negated, and are banished at the end of the turn. Hey! Mokuba blinked. But with Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in the graveyard, Big Brother's Ultimate Dragon is invincible. It's immune to all card effects. No, it's immune to opponent's card effects, Jaden grinned. But Shuffle Reborn is Kaiba's own card, so its side effect can't be avoided. I see. Still, knowing Kaiba, he must have a plan, Zane said. He was right. Kaiba slowly drew out a card from his hand. At last, he said quietly. After so many years, I've finally regained this power. Grant me this power once more, descend in your ultimate form. Kaiba's pupils narrowed as he raised the card, a beam of brilliant blue shooting into the sky. Lightning dragons roared amidst the clouds. Jaden stared in shock. Something big was about to appear. I tribute Blue Eye's ultimate dragon. The crowd was stunned. A monster that strong, he's sacrificing it. What kind of monster could require such a condition? Summoned from beyond the ultimate beast, a dragon of light that erases everything appear now. Blue Eye's shining dragon. From the light emerged the legendary ultimate monster. Armored in refined steel and stardust, its deep blue radiance was pure and intense as a newborn blue sun. No, it wasn't just a dragon, it was more like a guardian deity. Worshipped as a god by ancient Egyptians, it first appeared in card form in Pegasus's hands, briefly becoming Kaiba's trump card that surpassed even the gods. But at the end of the Pyramid of Light movie, Blue Eye's shining dragon burned itself out to destroy the final boss's Pyramid of Light, vanishing as a result. This was the peak of White Dragon evolution Kaiba had reached. Even after all these years, he hadn't developed a stronger form. So of course, he used every resource to try and recreate this card. Now, after so many years, he had finally succeeded. Back then, Adam was the first and only opponent Kaiba faced with Blue Eye's shining dragon. Now, Kira became the second. Blue Eye's shining dragon, ATK 3000. Whenever Blue Eye's shining dragon would be affected by a card effect, its controller can choose whether to accept or ignore it. Anime effect. Kaiba declared. This is the ultimate evolution of White Dragon, with absolute resistance. Choose whether to accept any effect. Zane's face changed. Does such resistance even exist? That really does surpass even the ultimate dragon's resistance, Jaden agreed. It's Kaiba Sito, after all. The previous ultimate dragon with full resistance was already a legendary monster in their eyes, yet now, Kaiba had immediately surpassed even that. I activate the spell card Dragon Shrine, Kaiba said calmly. I send one dragon-type monster from my deck to the graveyard. If it's a normal monster, I can send another. His deck automatically ejected 2 cards. I send 2 Blue Eyes White Dragons from my deck to the graveyard. Ultimate Fusion returns fusion materials to the deck, Kira understood. To boost Shining Dragon's power. Kaiba snorted. Humph, you know quite a bit. Yes, Blue Eye's Shining Dragon's attack increases by 300 for each dragon in my graveyard. Kaiba announced. For every dragon in my graveyard, Shining Dragon's ATK rises by 300. Images of the dragons in his graveyard appeared one by one. From the first turn's discarded dragon for the XYZ canon, to the discarded Tyrant Dragon, the Neo Ultimate Dragon, the Tribute Ultimate Dragon, and the 2 white dragons sent by Dragon Shrine effect. 6 dragons in total, for an ATK increase of 1800. Blue Eye's Shining Dragon, ATK 3000 ATK 4800. Even its ATK surpasses Ultimate Dragon. Jaden couldn't help but exclaim. And the terrifying thing is, this ability has no limit, Zane said seriously. Even with full resistance, Ultimate Dragon is only 4500 ATK. But Shining Dragon's ATK can just keep climbing as more dragons hit the graveyard. With this dragon, there was no telling how high its ATK could get. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he'd never believe such a monster could exist. He glanced at Kira again. Facing such a duelist and monster, could he still be as composed as always? I really got to see it. Kira looked up at that godlike, shining form and murmured. The anime effect of Shining Dragon. And neither Jaden nor Zane knew that even now, Shining Dragon wasn't at full power. It had a hidden ultimate effect, a trump card not easily used, but not to be underestimated. Shining Dragon's power will secure victory in my hands. But before the battle, Kaiba waved his hand, activating a face-down card. I activate the face-down spell card Ancient Rules. I can special summon a level 5 or higher normal monster from my hand. Appear, Dragon Spirit of White. In a white glow, the Dragon Spirit of White descended, spiraling towards Kira's back row. When Dragon Spirit of White is summoned, it can banish a spell or trap card on the field, Kaiba declared, banishing your set card. Kira's set card was revealed trap card Dimensional Wall. A trap that could reflect battle damage back to the opponent. Jaden realized. Oh. That move. Yet, even if Shining Dragon can ignore any effect, Dimensional Wall reflects battle damage without affecting the monster, Zane said. The monster may be invincible, but the duelist is not. If Kaiba relied only on his invincible Shining Dragon and attacked recklessly, Kira's Dimensional Wall would have meant instant defeat for Kaiba. Losing like that would be intolerable. He glanced at Kira again. Such devious tactics, one after another. Humph, Dimensional Wall? Useless against me. Kaiba raised his voice. Now, this is the true end. His gaze was resolute. More than winning against Kira, or making the finals or becoming king of games, this duel had a special meaning for him. This was his comeback, and a new step toward the future. He was going to carve out a bright future with his soul and his strongest servant. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, Attack. Shining Burst. Chapter 419, Dragons Must Die, Bonus. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, Attack. Kaiba shouted. Attack Grinder Token. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, ATK 4800. Grinder Token, ATK 0. The Grinder Golem summoned token had to be in attack position, a glaring weakness on Kira's field. Shining Dragon's attack would end this duel. But Kaiba frowned slightly. Could it really be that simple? Would this guy really? As expected. Just as the Shining Dragon's finishing blow fired, a burst of electromagnetic sparks exploded, and a powerful invisible force repelled both the light blast and the dragon's body. The white light soared into the sky, vanishing. Hey! Mokuba exclaimed. But Shining Dragon can ignore any effect, why was its attack stopped? Kaiba noticed a fleeting turtle-shaped shadow on Kira's field and snorted softly. That monster again! Electromagnetic turtle in the grave, Kira revealed the card banished from his graveyard. During your opponent's turn, you can banish this card from your graveyard to end the battle phase. Kira smiled. Shining Dragon ignores card effects, but this isn't an effect that targets the monster. Even a monster that surpasses the gods can't break the rules of dueling. When the battle phase is forcibly ended, the attack just fails. Kaiba smiled faintly. Just like back then. Kaiba, Obelisk the Tormentor, tear Slifer apart. In the grave, electromagnetic turtle's effect. MUDA. Fodder monsters' effects don't work on gods. I know, but this isn't an effect on a god, Yami Yugi replied. Electromagnetic turtle ends the battle phase, so even a god's attack is meaningless. That infuriating attitude, always, but that's why that person mattered so much to him. For Kaiba, duels with that person were always full of strategy and spirit, pushing him to his limits, time after time. That person's very existence made his blood boil. That's why, even after all these years, he couldn't forgive the guy for snatching victory and leaving as the winner. And now, through this duel, Kaiba increasingly saw a bit of that person's shadow in Kira. Was it an illusion? It didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was that this was the kind of battle he sought and recognized. I set 2 cards face down and end my turn. Kaiba swept his arm, setting 2 more cards. The situation was clearly dire for Kira. Kaiba's deck had surpassed everything in this era, and now he'd brought out a trump card like Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. Ultimate Resistant Ultimate Dragons and Shining Dragons, one after another with no breathing room. President really doesn't give you a break. Kira smiled wryly. Well, the result of this duel didn't matter. He was just testing his own limits, win or lose, he didn't care. No fear of defeat, no obsession with victory. As Jaden often said, he was simply immersed in the duel, living in the moment with all his might. My turn, draw. At that moment, the sealing device seemed to flicker. The eye of Horus flashed gold. Kaiba's pupils narrowed slightly. That sense of power, that blood-stirring feeling. During this turn's standby phase, the effect of Take Over 5 in the graveyard activates. This card and any copies in the deck are banished, and I draw 1 card. The spell card vanished in a shimmer of gold. Kira drew a card. But during the standby phase, Lava Golem's downside also activates, Kaiba said coldly. Kira nodded. I know. During the standby phase, the controller takes 1000 damage. Kira, LP 1850 LP 850. The golem let out a muffled sound, hanging its head in apparent dejection. But Kira just smiled. No problem. Then he revealed another card. I activate the spell card Advance Draw, Kira said. I tribute level 8 Lava Golem to draw 2 cards. Lava Golem melted away, and Kira drew 2 cards. He slowly drew one of the cards he'd just drawn. Then I activate this card. He raised his arm, and a green spell card appeared. Spell card, Fusion Birth. Manga card. Jaden nearly jumped up. Ah! The same card as mine. Oh! Kaiba said. You're using Fusion now. Fusion Birth, send the top 5 cards of your deck to the graveyard. If among them are the fusion materials for a fusion monster, you can fusion summon that monster. If you draw them, Kaiba smiled. Kira nodded. If I draw them? Zane murmured, he's put everything on the draw for victory. For this guy, that's rare. But after all, his opponent is Kaiba Sito. It meant, without relying on this, he couldn't win anymore. Still. Kaiba narrowed his eyes, still smiling. Come, show me, Fujiki Kira. The brilliance of you as a duelist. Draw. 5 cards in one go. 2 of them instantly flashed gold, transforming into monster images in midair: a regal warrior in blue armor wielding a massive sword, and an armored dragon warrior. Among the cards I drew, these 2. Kira announced. Buster Blader, and Dragon-type monster Troop Dragon. Buster Blader! Mokuba exclaimed. Then he realized right, after beating Gozaburo, Buster Blader was given to Kira. Facing Big Brother, of course Kira would use it. This was the true Dragon Killer. And also, a card series inspired by Adam's deck. Fusion materials, Buster Blader and any Dragon-type monster, Kira said. Fusing Buster Blader and Troop Dragon. The ultimate dragon-slaying swordsman, with a blade to carve out the future. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman summoned. Having gained the power of dragons, the ultimate Buster Blader. Thick armor, a massive dragon-slaying sword, and eyes sharp as rubies. The swordsman appeared, facing the godlike white dragon, hand on his sword, utterly fearless. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman, ATK 2800. This card was specially developed by Gozaburo's spirit to counter Kaiba. No one else had seen it, and everyone was stunned by the swordsman's presence. So cool! Jaden exclaimed. When did Kira quietly get such a powerful monster? Dragon Destroyer swordsman's effect, Kira said. As long as this card is on the field, all dragon-type monsters your opponent controls are switched to defense position and cannot activate their effects. The crowd was even more shocked. What a dragons must die effect. Chapter 420, Shining New Star. Just by being on the field, he can seal off the effects of all monsters of an entire race. Zane's face turned grim. Such a targeted effect, wasn't this a death sentence for any duelist running a pure dragon-type deck? Even Mokuba, who had always believed in his brother's strength, couldn't help but swallow nervously, starting to worry for Kaiba. But even so, Blue Eye's Shining Dragon still has higher ATK, Jaden said. No, Mokuba replied in a low voice. That warrior has other terrifying effects. Sure enough, Kira continued, Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman's other effect. This card gains 1000 ATK for each dragon-type monster on your opponent's field and in their graveyard. What? The crowd gasped again. 1,000 points for every dragon? Blue Eye's Shining Dragon also boosts its ATK based on dragons in the graveyard, but only 300 per card. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman, absorbs the power of every dragon on field and in the graveyard, and it's 1000 per card. In other words, no matter how hard it tries, there will always be a massive gap between Blue Eye's Shining Dragon and Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman. The more dragons in the graveyard, the greater the difference. A wall Shining Dragon can never hope to climb. Kaiba's grave has 6 dragons, plus Dragon Spirit of White and Blue Eye's Shining Dragon on the field, Kira continued. That's 8 dragons total. So, Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman, gains 8000 ATK. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer swordsman, ATK 2800 ATK 10800. Mokuba's face went pale. 10,800 ATK. Also, while Dragon Destroyer swordsman is on the field, all opponents' dragons must switch to defense position, Kira said. And when it attacks a defense position monster, any excess damage is dealt as piercing battle damage. Kaiba frowned. Blue Eye's Shining Dragon's effect, I choose not to accept this effect, so it stays in attack position. Only Dragon Spirit of White changes to defense. Dragon Spirit of White, ATK 2500 Def 2000. What terrifying suppression, Zane muttered, staring at the swordsman. Against a dragon user, this swordsman's pressure surpasses even that of the gods. Dragons had always been the most sought-after race in the dueling world, both for power and style, attracting legions of duelists. The introduction of such a card would shake the dueling world to its core. For dragon users, facing this monster, you've lost more than half the duel before it even begins. Can't attack, can't use effects, and the opponent's ATK goes over 10,000. How do you even play against that? Now I activate the spell card Pot of Greed, Kira said. I draw 2 more cards. Kira drew 2 cards, glanced at them, thought for a moment, then stepped forward. Battle. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, attack Blue Eyes Shining Dragon. The warrior raised his dragon-slaying sword, its blade flashing with a brilliance like the Milky Way. I anticipated you'd use the ultimate dragon-slaying swordsman, Kaiba roared. If my opponent doesn't go all out, there's no point. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon still has its ultimate ability Shining New Star. It's useless, Kaiba. Kira shouted. Shining New Star is an effect that must be actively activated. As long as Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman is on the field, you can't activate any dragon monster effects. Mokuba was amazed. But Blue Eyes Shining Dragon can choose whether to accept effects. That's only for effects that affect the monster, Jaden explained. But the opponent cannot activate any dragon effects as a restriction on the player. Zane nodded as well. It doesn't affect the monster itself, it prevents the player from using effect commands. No matter how strong the monster or how perfect its resistance, if the duelist can't give the command, it makes no difference. Hearing this, they realized Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman truly was Blue Eyes Shining Dragon's nemesis. At first glance, Shining Dragon seemed invincible, but all its abilities were perfectly countered by the swordsman. A true dragon slayer, the ultimate weapon against dragons. Even Kaiba was surprised not because Kira stopped him, but because he somehow knew Blue Eyes Shining Dragon's hidden ability. But in the heat of battle, there was no time to dwell on it. I expected this. I activate my set card. Kaiba shouted. Continuous trap DNA surgery. Declare a monster type. All monsters on the field become that type. Kira frowned. Declare a type, I see. That's right, I declare Divine Beast. Kaiba shouted. All monsters on the field become Divine Beast. The 3 monsters, 2 dragons and the Sword Master were instantly enveloped in a mystical aura, appearing even more majestic. Of course, Kaiba likely only chose Divine Beast for style points. His real goal, make his monsters anything but dragon. Blue Eyes Shining Dragon can choose whether to accept the effect. I choose to accept DNA Surgery's effect, Kaiba declared. So Blue Eyes Shining Dragon and Dragon Spirit of White become Divine Beasts. Now the number of dragons on the field drops by 2, reducing Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman's ATK by 2,000. Buster Blader, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman, ATK 10,800 ATK 8,800. Mokuba was worried. But even so, it still has over 8,000. Ah, but if it's not a dragon. Exactly. Now that Blue Eyes Shining Dragon is no longer a dragon, it's no longer restricted by Swordmaster's effect. Kaiba shouted. So Blue Eyes Shining Dragon's ultimate ability Shining New Star activates. Sacrifice itself to destroy any card on the field. Kaiba's voice was solemn. And this effect can be activated during the opponent's turn. Note, the anime's subtitles translated Kaiba as saying destroy any card on the field, but in the original Japanese he said any card, not just one. However, in both the game and the anime, he always destroyed just one card, so there's been debate on whether it could destroy more. Jaden was shocked. Destroy any card, and you can use it on your opponent's turn. While everyone knows quick play field wipes become common in future Yu-Gi-Oh!, at this point such effects are still outrageous. Being able to wipe out any number of cards at any time, resetting the opponent's plays, how do you even fight back?
Thanks for listening.